Welcome to last week's news today and another week of Ashes of Creation development. We have a lot to go through today, so we'll begin with the announcement. We can reveal that Alpha 2 will begin in October. While it is a shame that even with how confident they had been speaking about meeting the Q3 deadline, they weren't able to make it. There will be an Ask Me Anything with Steven alongside an Alpha 2 roadmap reveal, so we'll hopefully find out what went wrong on August 16th at 11 a.m. Pacific time. This roadmap will detail how Intrepid intends to release content throughout Alpha 2, along with additional features. The stream will be about 2 to 3 hours long. They will also be answering community questions about Alpha 2, which will be pulled from the forums and live. We'll put all the links below so you know where to go to submit your questions. If you don't get to watch it live, Maggie confirmed that they will post an article covering the stream. We'll also condense it down for you as we normally do. Maggie gave a brief summary of what to expect from the roadmap stream and said, the stream will go over what you can expect from Alpha 2, how to gain access if you've not already purchased access, and the plan moving forward throughout Alpha 2. If you're wondering about the character creator, supposedly they shall provide some info on that in the upcoming stream as well. Roshan also confirmed that the Alpha 2 roadmap showcase will share details on key sales as well. At the end of the stream, Maggie also mentioned that some sneak peeks and Alpha 2 codes might pop up through their social media. We'll make sure to let you know when we see these happening. Steven talked about 1,500 Alpha 1 testers conducting a stress test on Friday the 26th. He mentioned that they did not experience a realm coming down. They only experienced 4 server worker crashes, during which the affected players were able to relog right away as another server replaced the crashed one. It did not affect the broader realm, so it was very successful. We were also introduced to the spellbook for the first time during the Bard stream. Pretty cool to see it animating by itself. The spellbook is a ranged AoE weapon. It's part of the slow weapon group but deals chunky attacks. It's the first weapon with a splitting projectile. When it splits, it does minor damage to nearby target. Once the weapon skill tree is in a more presentable state, we will see elemental status effects, mana recovery effects, passive stats, and combo damage increasing effects, which are all already active. The presentation just needs to be made ready. This is in a new area of the Riverlands, a place called Darrigal Estate, and we were treated to a small piece of lore. The estate used to be owned by the wealthy family of Darrigal before the apocalypse. After civilization started to return to Vera, a bunch of peasants moved into the estate and were farming the land, but a sinister force, aka goblins, came in, took over, and have been reanimating the dead. We also got a little sneak peek at the season day timer, and the skill tree has had a bit of a rework since the last time we saw it, to allow more freedom of choice. Rather than having linear progression, we now have tiers of choice. The more points you put into the bottom tier, the more you can unlock the next tier, similar to how WoW has it at the moment. This system has now been applied to all the archetype trees. Now on to Bard itself. Bards will be able to choose their instrument from the skill tree. It's a cosmetic feature at the moment that will change your animation, sound effects, and how the melodies play. This is something Intrepid is looking to expand upon in the future by providing access to more instruments, roleplay, and music compositions, etc. Before we go into depth on the skills, we want to point out that on many skills we'll see a purple icon, which is indicative of magical power. On your character sheet, intellect waterfalls into magical power, critical power, accuracy, and other various stats. The Bard benefits a lot from magical power. Melodies. They're large, persistent AoE buffs or debuffs. Buffs are party-wide with the possibility of them implementing in the future AoE for outside the party. Melodies can be played concurrently with other abilities. So, Cheerful Melody. It causes nearby party members to gain a buff that increases healing received by 20%. It also lightly heals for 15% magical power every 2 seconds. Pensive Melody. Restores mana equal to 1 plus 1% magical power for every 2 seconds to nearby party members. Epic Melody. Movement speed is increased by 20% to nearby party members. Cathartic Melody. Attacks have a 25% chance to heal yourself for 50% of the damage done. Also affects nearby party members. And finally there is Menacing Melody. Increases damage taken by 10% to all nearby enemies. You'll be able to adjust your melodies to either have a charge up style or to weave through your skill tree. The 2 options we have now are Counterpoint and Crescendo. Crescendo powers up slowly over the course of 20 seconds, while Counterpoint allows you to swap melodies every 20 seconds with the effects of the last melody still active. A cool thing that was mentioned is that they intend to work with their composer Bear McCreary to create the audio for these melodies. The goal is for the melodies to harmoniously blend with the ambient music of the biome as well as other skills and abilities. There's also a movement skill called Flourish. Slide forward gracefully in your aim direction and gain Pep, which is a momentary 20% speed boost for 5 seconds. It can be used concurrently with any other ability. Next are some dance moves. Shielding Dance. Heal yourself and nearby allies for 50% magic power healing every second and apply up to 1 instance of shield to each target. Nimble Dance. Grants Nimble, which is gaining 50% base evasion, lasting 5 seconds, and pep to yourself and nearby allies every second. Mesmerizing Dance. Quickly strike a dazzling pose, mesmerizes all nearby enemies, applying incapacitated for 10 seconds. Any staggered targets become stunned for 3 seconds. They pointed out that they added diminishing returns, and Roshan clarified after the stream that it was still a work in progress. Maddening Dance. Damage nearby enemies for 40% magical power, arcane damage every second. Damage increases with less targets up to 60% magical power. Applies Humiliated, which is a 30% damage reduction against targets that are not the source of Humiliated, to targets that are demoralized, which causes the damage multiplier to be reduced by 10% for 8 seconds, with the possibility to be extended up to 20 seconds by subsequent applications. Get off the stage! Knock back enemies in front of you with your instrument, dealing 175% magical power bludgeoning damage, and applying 3 stacks of snared that tapers off over the course of 6 seconds. Also applies disarm to targets with staggered. Quick Wit, jest with the target ally, healing for 120% magical power healing, and applying Glee, which heals for 60% magical power every 2 seconds for 15 seconds, and can be extended by up to 20 seconds by subsequent applications. Or you can target an enemy and damage them for 100% magical power bludgeoning damage and applying Demoralized. Up next are several songs, which are single target channeled abilities like Lovely Serenade. Target ally is healed for 150% magical power, healing every second for 3.5 seconds. The final hit applies Glee. Anthem of Alacrity. Target ally attack speed increased by 25% and casting speed increased by 25% for 10 seconds. Chilling Lament. Target enemy is dealt 75% magical power ice damage and afflicted with 4 seconds of chilled every second. Deals bonus damage to frozen targets. Dark Lullaby. Deals scaling 50 to 100% magical power spirit damage to target enemy each second over the course of the cast. This damage will not wake an incapacitated target, and the final hit applies stun for 6 seconds if the target is incapacitated. Discordance. Launch a wild burst of 3 discordant notes at your target, each dealing 75% magical power arcane damage and applying staggered. The notes will bounce to random nearby enemies, dealing reduced damage. Gambit. Transfer life to or from target party member, depending on who has a lower percent health. This ability will not reduce either player below 20%. The character that loses life gains solace. Conflict. Nearby party members gain increased physical power by 10% for 30 seconds. Generates a stack of tragedy. Now you can stack up to 3 stories and then spin them to cast a saga. At the moment, they are only showing the conflict story, which generates tragedy stacks. There will also be 4 other stories granting comedy and mystery themes. Comedy will provide increased healing, while mystery will offer increased mana regeneration. Depending on the combination of themes, you'll be able to spin them to cast a certain saga. For example, there are the different stories: Destiny and Wonder generate mystery, Triumph and Joy generate comedy, and Chaos generates tragedy. Complete the tale with a grand finale consuming all of your current themes. The specific saga you have access to is determined by the combination of your current themes. The Apocalypse, which is 3 tragedy, conjure a scene at your location that depicts this fabled event. Enemies in front of you will be hit for 150% magical power fire damage, burning and afflicted with shaken. A lingering zone of flames will be left behind to deal 30% magical power fire damage each second for 8 seconds. There's also the Return to Vera, the Silent Pantheon, and the Myth of Creation. Next up are 3 passive skills. Monologue increases the number of charges of Quick Wit by 1, but increases cooldown by 2. Resident Weapon changes combo finishers based on active music. Menacing is 75% arcane damage, applies weaken to each target hit. Cathartic deals 75% bonus bleed damage and applies wounded. Cheerful heals a nearby injured ally for 250% healing, favors self and party members. Pensive restores mana to a nearby ally and need equal to 25 plus 5% magical power, favors self and party members. Epic dispels up to 1 root and applies pep to each party member. Finally, we have a skill that wasn't shown, but Misdirection reduces your own and nearby party members' threat against nearby monsters by 1000% magical damage. Steven clarified during the Q&A that buffs of the same type do not stack, so multiple bards in a party cannot cast the same buff at the same time. However, they can coordinate to ensure that they are casting different buffs simultaneously. If a buff does not have the same name, an armor piece with a 10% speed buff bonus will stack with a bard buff. There may be diminishing returns though. Once the overall buff reaches a certain threshold, the additional buff might become deprecated. Player skills can't be used on a mount, and Trepid has discussed it and may allow some skills to be cast while riding your mount in the future though. For now, no speed buffs are available while mounted. Steven also mentioned that bards won't have a shared siege skill like summoners do, but sagas are very important and will be crucial in sieges. Also, as a really quick note, I like the star system that they have set up for the mobs so that you can tell at a glance how tough something might be before you even start attacking. Another note would be that NPC animations were slightly bugged for the recording. If you noticed anything weird while watching, they were being throttled by a performance manager that still needs to be tuned. Lighting, sound attenuation, and layering is still being actively worked on, just like everything else as well. Thanks for sharing this in the community Discord trail. And finally, we've got some art to close this out, and I'll see y'all next week.